In this channel, we talk about all things money. Therefore, it's easy to assume that you might think I believe the most important resources in our lives is money. However, that is wrong. I actually believe that time is the most precious resource we have. Time cannot be mined like gold. Time cannot be pumped out of the ground like crude oil. And we cannot invest time and earn 8% return like the stock market. Once we use it, it's gone forever and we can't make any more of it. Therefore, time, I believe, is our most valuable asset, and when we have the means to, I highly recommend we trade the money we have to buy back more time in our lives. So in that spirit, in today's video, I want to share with you 7 steps to buying back more time, the world's most precious resource. Hi, if you're new to the channel, my name is Tay from Financial Tortoise, where we learn to grow our wealth slow and steady. The first step to buying back more time doesn't actually have to do with getting more time, but maximizing our time. And that is to clarify our priorities. The rest of this video is going to delve into the mechanics of buying back more time in our lives. However, before we acquire more time, if we don't have clarity on what we're going to do with that extra time, all our efforts will be in vain. He who fails to plan, plans to fail. I don't know who originally said it, but it's so true when it comes to optimally using our time. What is the point of buying back a good chunk of our time, but we end up bored and aimless? Or worse yet, wasted on activities that doesn't align with what is most important to us. Here are a few questions to ask yourself to help you get started. What do you want to make time for every day? What would you like to accomplish in your life? Is there anyone you wish you could spend more time with? What we want to do is clarify what we most value in our lives, which in turn will help us identify our top time priorities once we can have more of it. And know that priorities are fluid. It changes based on our stage of life, new experiences, and new knowledge. For me, when I was 27 years old, I remember my #1 priority was to transition from my previous career in the Army successfully. So every waking extra time was spent on researching graduate schools or new careers friendly to transitioning military officers. However, 10 years later, when I was 37 years old, my priorities changed because my life circumstances changed. My new priority became spending more time with my growing family. So I did my best to carve out whatever extra time I had to spend with my wife and the kids. So ask yourself, if you can buy back 5 more hours out of your time per week, what would you want to spend that extra time on? Alright, with that said, let's move on to some of the actual mechanics of buying back more time. The second step to buying back more of our time is to evaluate our work life. Work, whether we like it or not, occupy a huge chunk of our lives. According to data in the book Happiness at Work, it is estimated workers spend an average of 90,000 hours in a job, or close to a third of our lives. But how many of us are intentional about our careers or our jobs? Most often, the most important factor when it comes to working is money. And in the spirit of wanting to make more and more money, we often take jobs with the highest salary without consideration of quality of life or even quality of work. Who cares if it requires me to work 80 hours a week, or 2 hours away from home? Earning the highest amount is what matters. However, there is a real cost to working just for money. Not only will we burn out, but we're haphazardly using up the most precious resource we have, our time. I know work is important. It not only pays us, but also gives us a sense of purpose and accomplishment. However, we weren't created to just work all day and die one day. If we did our exercise of clarifying our priorities correctly, we'll realize that we have many other obligations and desires in our lives. Our family, our hobbies, and our community. Let me share with you a couple tips to buy back more time from work. One is to reduce your commute if you can. According to data from the US Census, the average American worker commutes close to 30 minutes to work each way. That adds up to 1 hour in the car each day, and when we stretch this out to a year, we're talking about close to 200 hours spent commuting to and from work. Try negotiating working from home. We know many companies allowed this during the COVID-19 pandemic. If your company is still friendly to this idea, talk to your manager. Even if you're only able to negotiate a few days a week, that is still a win. Another idea to carve back time from work is to consider cutting back your hours or going part-time. My wife and I actually did this a while back, and we noticed a very interesting phenomenon. The world didn't end. Our paycheck didn't drop as much as anticipated because we're paying less taxes with less take-home pay. We were able to continue healthcare for our family due to affordable care. And our overall expenses dropped because we didn't need to spend money on work-related items like gas for commuting, clothes, and even stress spending from work. At the end of the day, whether you cut your commute down or are able to negotiate working less, the bottom line is to evaluate your current work situation with a fresh lens. Are the times that you're spending at work today aligned with your current life priorities? And if not, what can you start doing to gain more of that time back? The third step in buying back more of our time is to assess our optimal home size. Or better put, buy or rent the most optimal home that works for us. Home is a very sensitive topic in America. It symbolizes the American dream. Therefore, many of us work very hard to live in the biggest house we can afford. We envision a large bedroom to sleep in, the fancy kitchen to cook amazing meals at, and a huge dining room to host family and friends. However, according to a study published in the Wall Street Journal, in reality, we only tend to use a small amount of our living space. The study found that 68% of the family's time was largely spent in the kitchen and the family room. Formal dining room almost got no use, the living room saw very little activity, and the porch, no one hardly ever sat there. I know every family dynamic is different, and with your family, you might love spending time on the porch. But what this study showed was that for many Americans, the majority of our homes most often goes unused. So think hard about what type of home you want to raise your family in. Because when you live in an optimal home, most often a smaller home than what's portrayed in the media, we truly are maximizing its utility. With a large home, whether you like it or not, it requires more time to maintain and upkeep. And this is even if you were to outsource a lot of the activities. Your home has a large backyard, you need to manage the gardening service to come and clean it on a weekly basis. Your home has a large kitchen, you need more time on maintaining the different cabinets and drawers of stuff. It may feel weird to choose a smaller place to live in when you can afford a larger place, but when you look at it from the lens of time, it helps us reframe what is most important to us. Step 4 to buying back more of our time is to buy items and things that will save us time. And doing this without guilt. Of course, we want to make sure that the item that we're spending money on is actually saving us time. And we aren't using this as justification to buy a bunch of things that we just wanted deep down inside. For my wife and I, this really comes into play with tech devices like computers and phones. We live in a digital age where we're spending more time on our devices than ever. Many of us make our living behind the computer screen. Then we entertain ourselves through our iPads. And we use our phones to help us navigate when we drive. And we know the frustration that comes with trying to function with a slow phone or a slow computer. From a financial perspective, it may seem a little careless to replace our phones or computers when they slow down. However, when we look at it from the lens of saving time, it makes perfect sense. Just imagine you waiting 5 seconds every time you open a new program on your computer. You multiply this over a period of a day, a week, and a year, and you could be talking about hours, if not days of your time being wasted on waiting. For my wife and I, given that we spend so much of our time on digital devices, we don't hesitate too much to upgrade or replace our gear when we start to notice them slowing down. Step 5 to buying back more of our time is very similar to step 4, but this time instead of things, we spend money on services that can save us time. And again, we want to be mindful of buying services that are truly saving us time. Not just services that we want and using time saving as a justification. For me, once our family had grown, house cleaning became one of these services. Yes, you can judge me all you want, but I pay for a home cleaning service. Weird as it sounds, I actually enjoy cleaning and organizing. It's sort of a therapeutic activity for me to tidy up my desk and vacuum my room. But with 2 young kids and my aging parents living with us, to keep the house continually clean to the standard I would like would take me extra 2 to 3 hours every week. So I gladly spend money to have someone come in every month to do a deep clean of everything. It saves me a tremendous amount of time, and they do so much better job than I ever could. So if you can afford it, take a look at buying services that could save you time. Some other common ways are grocery delivery, rideshare services, and I've seen some families even hire a part-time chef to come in and cook meals for them for the week. If you aren't used to it, it definitely might feel weird to spend money on some of these services. But when you look at it from the lens of saving and buying back more time, it could be a tremendous value add to your life. Step 6 to buying back more of our time is to simplify our investments. When we have a complex portfolio with a lot of different funds, we're adding a lot of additional work on our plate. The need to rebalance, the need to log into different accounts, and the need to see if everything is on track. When we have a simple 1, 2, or 3 fund portfolio with a single investment firm, we're saving time by not having to manage an overly complex portfolio. I know that at times the math works in favor of a more complex portfolio. Having a bit more international funds or having a bit more mid-cap funds that can help increase our long-term returns. However, remember that every complexity comes with cost. Cost not in financial terms, but cost in time. So consider that next time you're thinking about adding another variable to your investment portfolio. Step 7 to buying back more of our time is to simply value our time. It sounds pretty straightforward, but in actuality, it's really hard to execute. In the spirit of saving money, many people waste too much time trying to find the cheapest prices, whether by driving out of the way for the least expensive gas or driving to multiple stores for slightly lower prices. Whenever I go to Costco, I'm boggled by the crazy long lines for gas. I think every time that people must know something I don't. But when I do the math in my head, I shake my head amazed by the people's willingness to wait 30 minutes to save $10 in gas. I personally believe that we would be happier if we spent a little bit more money and spared ourselves the trouble. And I also see this often with people booking trips. In the spirit of saving money, I have friends who are willing to jump on a 5 a.m. flight or 3 connections before they arrive at their destination. And mind you, they're traveling with young children like myself. I recommend that people think really hard about whether the extra travel fatigue is worth the money saved. Value your time and pay a little extra. Thank you guys for watching. If you'd like to learn more about some other weird things I like to spend money on, please check out my video here. Until next time, all the best.